In the quiet, unassuming town of Ravensbrook, whispers of the past swirled like the autumn leaves. The town, nestled in the crook of the dark, dense whistling woods, had a history it preferred to forget. Locals spoke in hushed tones about the disappearances, always occurring during the nights when the wind howled through the trees, making them whistle a mournful tune. It was on one such night that Sarah Carter found herself driving back home from her late shift at the hospital. The wind had picked up, and the trees seemed to lean in closer to the road, as if trying to warn her away. Her car radio crackled with static before falling silent, leaving her alone with the eerie whistling. Sarah had always dismissed the tales of the whistling woods as mere superstition. A rational woman, she believed in facts and evidence, not ghost stories. Yet, as she turned a sharp corner, her headlights flickered and then died, plunging her into darkness. Her car coasted to a stop, and she sat in stunned silence, the wind's song the only sound. Grabbing her phone, she saw there was no signal. With a sigh, she popped the hood and stepped out into the chilly night, the beam of her flashlight piercing the darkness. As she inspected the engine, she heard it, a low, eerie whistle. She froze, the hair on her arms standing on end. It wasn't the wind, it was something deliberate. Her flashlight flickered and went out. Panic surged through her as she fumbled to turn it back on. The whistling grew louder, closer. She could feel a presence, watching, waiting. The stories of the whistling woods flooded her mind, tales of a killer who preyed on those who ventured too close, his eerie whistle the last sound they heard. Desperate, she scrambled back to the car, locking the doors behind her. The whistle was now right outside her window, accompanied by the faintest outline of a figure in the shadows. Her heart pounded as she struggled to think of a plan. The figure moved, circling the car, tapping lightly on the windows, the whistle never ceasing. Summoning her courage, Sarah reached for her phone again. She had downloaded an offline map for emergencies. With shaking hands, she traced the route back to town. If she could just make a run for it, she might have a chance. She took a deep breath, preparing herself for the sprint of her life. Without warning, the car's rear window shattered. She screamed, ducking as a hand reached through the broken glass. Adrenaline kicked in, and she shoved the door open, tumbling out and sprinting down the road. The whistling followed her, relentless and mocking. She ran, branches clawing at her skin, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Up ahead, she saw the faint glow of a cabin's lights. Hope surged through her as she pushed herself harder. She burst through the door, slamming it shut behind her. Inside, an old man sat by the fire, his eyes wide with surprise. "Help me," she gasped. "There's someone out there." The old man nodded solemnly, rising slowly. "I know," he said, his voice gravelly. "He's been here before." As if on cue, the whistling resumed outside the cabin, growing louder, more insistent. The old man handed her a rifle. "We have to be ready," he said. "He's not just a man, he's something else." They stood side by side, weapons pointed at the door. The whistling stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. Then the door burst open. A shadowy figure loomed in the doorway, eyes glowing with an unnatural light. The old man fired, but the figure moved with inhuman speed, dodging the bullets effortlessly. Sarah squeezed the trigger, her shot grazing the figure, causing it to howl in pain. In the brief moment of confusion, she saw its face, pale, gaunt, and twisted with malice. The figure lunged at them, but the old man tackled it to the ground. "Run!" he shouted to Sarah. "Run, and don't look back!" She hesitated, then bolted out of the cabin, not daring to look behind her. She ran until her legs gave out, collapsing on the edge of town where the first rays of dawn were breaking through. Townsfolk found her there, exhausted and hysterical. They never found the old man or the figure that haunted the whistling woods. But from that night on, Sarah never doubted the stories. She moved away from Ravensbrook, but the eerie whistle haunted her dreams, a reminder of the night she faced the darkness within the whistling woods.